Hey, everybody. Welcome to day 2, Breakfast with Bob from Hotel West End in beautiful Nice. My name is Bob Babbitt. We're brought to you by Master Spas, SFuels Go Longer, HOKA Let's Fly, deboer wetsuits, Form Smart Swim Goggles, Zoot Sports, the original triathlon brand, Quintana Roo, Premium Plus Sports, and of course, our Challenged Athletes Foundation. Our next guest, a young man who last year really put himself on the triathlon map with a silver medal at the Ironman World Championship, Mr. Sam Laidlow. How you doing, Sam?
I'm good, thanks. Happy to be here.
It's always such a pleasure to see you, man. And just when I look back a year and that amazing race, did you surprise yourself that day? Because for a lot of folks, they thought, okay, Sam will be up there in a bike, but he's going to fade on the run.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a very quick rise, and I guess a surprise. But equally, I'd been working towards that for 20 years nearly, you know. So
Yes.
yeah, it was kind of what I envisioned. But yeah, for it to happen on my first time in Kona was definitely unexpected. Yeah.
So when you have a race where you get to a certain point where you start taking ownership, you start going, okay, I'm leading. Because probably early on you're thinking, oh, someone's coming. But then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I could win this thing. And then 2 minutes, right? It's 2 minutes that Gustav ends up winning by. Do you start looking at that? You're excited. You've had the race of your life. When do you start thinking, where could I have made up 2 minutes? Where could I have found that?
Yeah, I don't really ask myself that because I think I know where I can make them up. I think I'm 2 minutes better at swimming than Gustav, and that day I came out with pretty much everybody, so I didn't make the most of it there. But equally, I still believe I can get much faster at cycling and running, and that's the way the sport's going. So we have to get faster and faster, and it's just who gets fastest the quickest, basically. And yeah, but it would have been too easy, you know. If I'd won it, then it would have been.
What do you do? Right?
Yeah, the story would have been too easy. So yeah, I like the struggle, and that's what we live for. And if there is one thing that I want to promote, I guess it's to show that it's not easy, you know. Otherwise, everybody would do it, and I'll keep trying and until I make it. Yeah, but it's definitely not an easy road, and I guess I'm happy to share my successes and also my failures. Yeah.
The hard part is when you get a silver medal, then every starting line you go to from then on, it's he's the favorite. That and the expectations. Is that tough when you go to a race and now you can't blend, you can't sort of hide anymore? It's everybody's expecting you to be there and win.
Yeah, I mean it was. I guess what people forget is that before this year, I'd never even won a professional race, you know. So suddenly I'm going to all these start lines this year with like the number one, and I'm like, well, guys, I've never won a race, you know. And so yeah, to say the bad luck that I've had this year and the fact that I've still managed to win two races, I kind of look as a positive. I'm pretty proud of myself to have gotten them 2 wins despite the pressure and despite the various things that happened to me. So yeah, I just whatever this year is, it is what it is, you know, and it's part of the journey that I'm on.
So your calf, and you were right there at Challenge Roth, and calf seizes up, about halfway through, something like that?
Yeah.
And obviously, at that point, you know the calf's hurt. You can pull the plug and save for another day, but it's Challenge Roth. It's one of those epic events. Was there a point where you thought, you know what, I could be doing some damage here?
Yeah, I mean, I knew I was doing some damage. I ended up having a 2 centimeter tear in my calf there, so I ran 32k or something with a torn calf, which probably wasn't the smartest decision. But yeah, I mean, it's also, I guess it shows the pressure that you do feel as an athlete, you know, to deliver and to finish. Yeah. And that day, despite like pretty much walking the last 32k, I still did 7 hours 47, you know, which when you look back is I think I wrote somewhere that it was like, I'm sure this is a record of like the first guy to run over a 3 hour marathon and still go under 750 or something.
You know what? It might be. Yeah, you were 3 hours and 48 seconds. You're like, oh my God, and you were still under 8 hours. That's pretty amazing. And yeah, you're right. So Challenge Gran Canaria and Challenge London. And I think Challenge London, at that point, was that around Milwaukee? Was it the thought that you might go to Milwaukee?
So what happened was after I found out that I torn my calf in Challenge London, in Challenge Roth, I didn't want to pull out. I didn't think I'd be able to be ready for PTO Milwaukee, so I pulled out early rather than doing it's not fair on the athletes that are further down the ranking. If you pull out last minute, they can't necessarily come. So yeah, I made that decision quite early to not go, and then my calf healed up really quickly, much quicker than we expected. And so then I was doing some aero testing in the UK, and I thought, well, there's a race.
I'm here.
Yeah, I might as well do it.
Exactly. And when a lot of times it's also good, rather than if you're not quite right, going and you're the deepest field around. You're going to Milwaukee against Frodeno and everybody else. Psychologically, it's probably better to stay home and then race. You want to do a race, but you don't necessarily want to have the Hall of Fame list in front of you when you go do that race.
Yeah, I mean, if I could choose, I would choose the best fields.
Always.
So yeah, I wouldn't say that was my reasoning behind it. It was just bad luck, bad timing, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, I still think it's good to go to races where the best guys are, because otherwise you don't really know how good you're training, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So back in the day, and your dad knows this, is people went from sprint to Olympic. They focused on the Olympics, and then it was like when you got older and slower, you moved to Ironman, right? And you're in your 30s. We're seeing you and Magnus and so many others in their early 20s coming into the longer distance. Was that a conscious thought on your part, or was it, you know what, I just think I like the longer distance better?
Yeah, it was definitely. So my dream had obviously always been Kona, and I kind of naturally deviated to the short course route and got put in boxes. That what you said before, that kind of you do short course and then you move up slowly to Ironman distance, and then before I knew it, I was like at one of the highest levels of racing short course, but I just wasn't enjoying it. So very quickly I kind of took a step back, went back home, and asked my dad to coach me. That's where we said, okay, let's give Ironman a shot, because there was no reason that I couldn't deliver an Ironman, you know, at 18, 19, 20. And we looked at my level in both races, like in short course and Ironman, and we thought, well, if you look at the world ranking, you'd do better in an Ironman. You know, if there was a world championship, the short course or Ironman, you'd do better. And we're talking when I'm 19, like you'd do better in an Ironman, so just go for that.
Might as well make the move now.
And that's where my heart was at the end of the day. So we set out on this journey to get like 1% better every year, and as I said before, that's not quite quick enough. I'm getting more than 1% better every year, but then you have two Norwegians come along and go very fast.
When you guys are, I know the family business, you guys do triathlon. When you are coaching younger athletes, older athletes, what have you learned from just last year, from the Ironman experience, expectations, those type of things, that you can share with those athletes?
It's difficult to put my finger on one particular thing. I've grown up seeing my dad and my mum help athletes.
Right.
And I think at the end of the day, if there's one thing to share, it's really about using triathlon as the balance for your life. You know, no matter how good you want to be, I think that's each to their own. But it can play a key role in making you have a very balanced life and healthy lifestyle. And I think that's the most important. Yeah. So doing it to the level where you feel you get satisfaction, making sure you fix your goals and you have a reason to go out and do some activity. I think that's important. Yeah.
There's a lot of pro athletes I've met over the years who you sort of know as soon as they're retiring, like a Mark Allen, that he's never going to do another race again, right? He's not going to be racing age group, things like that. I see you as the type of guy that this is so ingrained in who you are that even when you're not at the pointy end, you'll still be out there doing swim, bike, and run.
Yeah, it's funny because if you would ask me that a few years ago, I was like, when I wasn't necessarily performing, I would have said no. After I've done the sport, I'm done with it. I'm never training again. You know, I'm just like, because I was just like, you know, I was forcing it. I wasn't really enjoying it as much. And but yeah, definitely now, I think I think, as I said before, it's important to have that part of your life, and especially when you've grown up. And I think I noticed that with my dad. Here, I'll be careful what I say because he's just sat there.
I know he's right out there. Yeah.
When you're born into sport and from a very early age you do a lot of intensity and miles of training, it's very difficult when you cut that out of your life, you know, mentally, because obviously you've gotten used to this dopamine levels that you get every time you finish a session, and then suddenly to cut that out, it can be very hard for your brain. And I've been watching recently Tyson Fury's documentary on Netflix, and yeah, it's just crazy how much he needs, that guy, to go to the gym, you know. And I think it's deep down, it's the same for us to keep a healthy mindset. We kind of need that, even if it's very small or once
Doesn't
a day.
matter. Yeah.
We need that hit of dopamine.
I tell people all the time that when you do this, when you swim, bike, and run, it makes you better in everything you do. It makes you a better husband, father, employee, employer. It just gives you clear thought. You can do anything. Let's talk a little bit about this course. Obviously, this is a little different than Kona, what you grew up watching, but this is, 5 hours or so from where you live. Everybody's talking the bike course, 8,000 feet of climbing, or close to 8,000 feet of climbing, descending, technical. You like this?
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge, you know. I like it. It's very unexpected. Whatever happens, you know, it's very difficult to kind of apprehend what's going to happen on the day. I think it doesn't necessarily suit me, but I think it doesn't suit a lot of people. I think a lot of people will be shocked at their real level of cycling. A lot of triathletes anyway, just like cycle on the turbo trainer, who can go in a straight line.
This ain't it.
But yeah,
this is not that.
Luckily for me, I've grown up in the Pyrenees, so
right.
I know I'm a bigger guy, but I still know how to climb for my size, and same going downhill. Yeah, so it'll be fun, and I think there'll be some shock scenarios, I think, and whether I'll be on the receiving end of it, I don't know.
Now, the run course is multiple loops, should be flat and fast. Of course, it's in the afternoons here. It's been really hot. But this course suits you? Would you prefer it to be a hilly run course?
Yeah, I'd say I'd prefer Kona run course, and especially in the situation that I'm often at, is that in Kona you just kind of, there's only 2 dead turns, you know, in the whole course, so you don't see your competitors that much. Here I'm going to see them 8 times, you know, and when you see Patrick running at 2:30 and you're counting down the minutes, it's definitely a run course where you're better chasing than being chasing, you know, so that will be difficult, but yeah, we're ready for it. You
mentioned, when we were chatting just a little bit ago, that there was a, you know, hey, when this sport is done, I'm never going to train again. What turned it around? What changed for you?
As I said, I've come to realize that actually what I enjoy is this lifestyle.
This is it, right?
Racing is part of it, but at the end of the day, I would still go out training a lot if I didn't have the racing. I generally enjoy just like waking up and trying to do my best in training and having a good session, and that's what. Yeah, at the end of the day, that's pretty much the only thing that makes me happy. You know, if I have a bad day's training, it's very, very difficult for me to be happy. Even though I've got everything to be happy. You know, I've got amazing family, amazing girlfriend, amazing brother. You know, I've got a house, I've got everything I need. But if the session's gone badly, I can be in a deep dark place, and it's a very, like, I have to remind myself that there's not just that to it.
How'd your life change when you got the silver medal in Kona? Or did it?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing for me was to not make it change, you know, because clearly that's what got me to that level in the first place. I'd say the main thing that changed is the support, and the team that I have around me is much bigger and much more invested, you know.
Right.
I've tried to, I think it was proof to my team that we can, like, okay, we're not far now, you know, so we can, all we need is another, like, 2, 3, 4 years of investment, you know, and we've got the title, and I think, you know, we can see it, we can reach it, and now it's like we're just fine-tuning basically the team and finding the final pieces of the puzzle.
Last year, one of the things that impressed me the most was you go to both Canadian Open, U.S. Open, and you're in the midst, obviously, of training for Kona, because that's the big prize, and getting fourth at both of those races against, you know, we're talking Olympic distance athletes, we're talking folks who are specializing in 70.3, and you were right there at the pointy end of that. Did that give you a lot of confidence going into Kona, that you had the speed?
Yeah, I mean, I was really happy with them 2 races. I guess both results were a bit unexpected. And then in Dallas, I think I mentioned it before, but it was a very hot day, and I just felt like I couldn't go fast, but I could keep going. So to a certain extent, that did bring me some confidence for Kona. But then just the bike legs I had in Kona were just great compared to Dallas. You know, I averaged pretty much the same power in Kona and Dallas, and it's like more than twice as long. So yeah.
Yeah, that's not bad. With the rest of with the Ironman World Championship being so early, that leaves more time for more racing afterwards.
Yeah.
What are you thinking about doing, or will it depend on what happens on Sunday?
First of all, I've got a big week of organising my own family's race, which is the Bearman. So we do like an iron distance event near where we live.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So it's like an iron distance, but with a lot of climbing.
Is that a week after or a couple weeks after?
Exactly a week
after.
A
week after this, so you probably have all the pros come and do your race.
Yeah, I wish, but
your dad said he'll take care of the appearance fees. It's not a problem.
It generally involves when you're in an organisation, it involves just not sleeping basically. So actually, the first year we ever organised it, I made the choice to do the race because I thought maybe I'd get a bit of rest,
Yeah,
yeah. I did that Ironman when I was 18. Yeah.
So when you're putting on a race, because people that have no idea what it takes to put this stuff on, and you're both an athlete and you're an event organizer, sort of.
I would say my parents are.
Your parents are organizing, but I'm sure you notice all the scaffolding and all the different stuff and the dollars that are being spent. Does it change does it change your perspective of the sport, knowing what it takes to put this stuff on?
Definitely. I mean, I'm always amazed at how big some of these organizations are and how smoothly it runs, because sometimes you're there the day before and you're like, well, how the hell are they going to close these roads overnight and let us through here and there? And it's but at the end of the day, it comes down to human relations. Most of these big races depend on friendships and people coming to help, and I think that's a big part of it. And especially for our family run event, I mean, we haven't got like a club or an organization. We haven't got loads of hands. We've basically just got friends.
It's you.
We got my dad, who's 3 days out, doesn't sleep and goes to mark the course like every night, driving, and then we just count on good friends, and thanks to that we make it's a very relatively small event, but we try and make sure that athletes really feel I guess it's just a very emotional and great family run event basically.
It's a family event, so a lot of the people come back year after year.
Yeah, exactly.
So you will be racing this year?
No.
You realize that's a mistake. You can't
especially race 7 days after this race.
And
it's as I said, it's 5,000 meters of climbing. Is there on the bike? 5,000 meters of the climbing on the bike, and 2,000 the run.
Oh my God!
Nice is flat next to it. Yeah.
And you train on that course all the time, I'm betting.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
That's so this is. How do you see this playing out? You see there'll be a big swim group coming out?
I think maybe. There's actually a slightly less density in really good swimmers than normal, I would say. We're missing Florian Lange, Jesper Svensson. There's a few guys that aren't here.
Yeah.
And so I think the fact that it's quite a long straight line out could mean that it's probably a big enough group come out together. And then on the bike, it's really difficult to say. I think there'll be some idiots like me who probably try and get away. But equally, like, the race really starts when you get to the top of the climb. Actually, if you're apparently, from speaking to the ones who did race Nice, like, they just went out too hard in the first 2 hours. Both Cam and Clement really suffered. Even though they were on their own, they still felt like they could gain a lot of time in the last hour or so of racing on the bike. So
right.
Yeah, and although the run course is fast, I'm not sure people run that fast because
it's hot.
It's hot. It's a longer race.
No shade.
No shade, and sometimes these kind of courses can just be like mentally really difficult.
Also, it's interesting because I was mentioning to Cam. Said, at Challenge Roth, you had Patrick Lange ran.
I wouldn't listen to Cam, whatever he says.
Yeah, I know exactly. He said Patrick ran a 2:30 marathon. He says, but look how far back he was. So it didn't really matter. He ran 2:30, but he was pretty far back. So people can get away from him. And that obviously that's what the plan is.
I think people also underestimate how good Patrick is at cycling.
We saw it in Israel.
And at the end of the day, like in Roth, for instance, me and Magnus, we rode like whatever it was, 10 minutes into everybody, But then Patrick was the next fastest guy, So it's and people forget that because then there's Skipper and all these so-called Uber cyclists. But Patrick's a good cyclist, especially given he's a smaller guy and Roth is.
He'll climb well here, yeah.
And I think he'll climb well and descend well. So, but we'll see. Yeah, but I think he's definitely a clear favourite for this race.
Yeah, and you got to get away from him. You don't want him with that 2:30 speed coming after you. Exactly. Always a pleasure. Sam, thank you so much for taking time. What? So will you be doing some other racing afterwards?
I'll be doing a little bit. I'll do Challenge Vieux-Beaucourt, which is in France on the Challenge Family Circuit.
Yes.
And then we'll probably play it by ear depending on how I'm feeling. And yeah, but no pressure after this race. Basically.
No, right. You can relax. Yeah, you can look at. But then you'd have to start thinking about qualifying for going back to Kona. I bet you're excited to go back to Kona next year.
Well, hopefully, if I have a good race here, I
won't have to worry about it, right?
But we'll see.
I love it. Thank you so much, bud.
No,
Always
thank you,
a
mate.
pleasure.
Great.
Sam Laidlow has been our guest, everybody. Again, day 2, Breakfast with Bob. Hold on. We will be right back.